How's it going, everyone? David here from dodmedia. Today we're taking a look at this, another budget anamorphic lens. This is the 50mm T2.9 full frame projection 1.8 times squeeze anamorphic prime by Greatjoy. So this lens comes in a range of mounting options. I have the EF mount, but it comes in PL mount, and once the campaign is over and production begins, they'll be offering E mount, Z mount, L mount, RF mount, basically every mount that you could want or adapt to your needs. So the idea of this lens is to almost double the horizontal coverage by squeezing in more horizontal projection by a factor of 1.8 times, and then de-squeezing that footage in post-production so it returns to normal. If we compare a spherical 50mm using the exact same framing, you can see the coverage difference between the two. Now, the thing about that is that if you're shooting this on a 16:9 or 17:9 sensor, you're gonna end up with an insanely de-squeezed aspect ratio. Like, Michael Bay wouldn't even go there. So let me run you through the post-production process and show you how I get this footage from camera to a proper 2.39:1 cinescope aspect. I apply the transform effect to my clip, uncheck uniform scale, and bring my scale height down to 55.5 because 100% of the height divided by that 1.8 times squeeze factor is 55.55 recurring. Now that's your image in the correct aspect ratio, but the clip itself is just crazy long. And besides, you can see the barrel projection of the lens causing vignetting in the edges. It's just not made to be used like that. So now what we do is we scale up the clip in its motion properties. We're going to bring it up to 134% scale. And now it fits within a true 2.39:1 cinescope or cinemascope aspect. Now, I shot all that footage that you saw in the beginning with the A7S III, which is a full frame sensor using a 16:9 ratio. But just because this lens calls itself a full frame lens does not mean it's only good for full frame cameras. So to give you a bit of a sense of what this lens will look like on a couple of different camera setups, a couple of different sensor sizes, here is the original full frame A7S III once I've applied that whole post-production de-squeezing process. Then here I'm shooting on the A6500 in Super 35mm. The post-production process is the same because it's also a 16:9 sensor capture, and the resultant image is just cropped in. Then here it is on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, which features an anamorphic mode, which will crop into the sensor horizontally to give you a 3:2 sensor coverage. Now this mode is designed for a 2 times squeeze anamorphic lens, but 1.8 is close enough that a little tweaking in post gets it right. The issue here though is that we're already on a Super 35mm sensor and we're cropping in even more. So the amount of projection we're losing is just too much for my liking. If you compare the anamorphic mode on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K with the full frame A7S III, which I've de-squeezed in post, you can see just how much of that projection is getting cropped. And we're losing a lot of resolution in camera to do that on the Blackmagic as well. So personally, I'm more interested in actually using the full frame sensor and then just having to de-squeeze it manually and chop off the edges to fill that 2.39:1 ratio. Okay, in terms of the lens build and features, the lens has a solid build. The casing is all metal. It's got focus and iris gears and distance markings, everything you'd expect in a cine lens really, though it only shows metric values, not feet, which is fine by me, but might annoy some focus pullers if they're used to working in feet. Actually, I have a focus builder buddy. Focus builder buddy? Let's see if he's able to take a call.
Hello, mate.
How's it going?
How's it going?
Listen, do you have a sec to be in my YouTube video?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. So listen, I've got this lens. It's an anamorphic prime, and as a focus puller, how do you feel about the fact that it's only got meters as your distance markings there and not feet?
So how I personally feel about it
Yeah.
is I only work in feet. I don't work in meters.
Okay.
If I was on a remote focus, like a wireless focus, if that was the lens I had to use. So for example, if the DOP said, look, I love this lens, I don't care that it's in meters, make it work. What I would do is I would translate the distance from meters into feet on my handset, and then I would rely on my own markings.
Okay. So the answer is that you would actually use the markings on the lens to measure, to gauge your distances while you're shooting, while you're pulling focus. So it is a pain that it doesn't have feet on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it is.
There you have it, Greatjoy. Put feet on the next one. Okay, the front filter thread is 82mm, which means I can slap my Freewell Variable ND mist filter set on there. Although I didn't use the mist set for that opening sequence, I used the plain Variable ND without the mist in it, because I wanted to show what the lens's image looks like without any additional light modifiers. The lens has a support mount, but its placement, honestly, for me, is slightly awkward, and I already have a makeshift lens support on my handheld rig, so it's a moot point. And the lens really isn't that long, and it's only about 1 kilo, so I think your camera will be fine. So, likes and dislikes. Hey, Editor David here, coming back in with some invaluable hindsight. A couple of things I forgot to mention when I was filming the actual review over on the review bench was the throw of the focus. That was a bit of an issue for me because I was using a manual focus puller, a manual follow focus. It has a pretty large throw. It's not a problem if you're working with a electronic follow focus because you can change the speed of the motor relative to 1 full revolution of your hand unit. But if, like in that intro shot sequence, you're using a manual follow focus like I was using the mini small rig one, I had to turn it a lot to be able to get from one extreme to another, from closest to infinity. Just bear that in mind. If you're using a manual follow focus with this, you're gonna be spinning it for a while. And another thing that I forgot to mention, although I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere else, so I'm assuming it's just a defect with my unit, is that the focus barrel is slightly stiff at the very start, so at the closest focus, minimum focus, and near enough to infinity focus. When you're turning it, it's just a little on the stiff side, to the point where I needed to get a higher voltage cable to run the Tilta Nucleus Nano motor, because 5 volts was just not enough to turn it. However, I was able to just get a D-tap to micro USB, so it's shoving 16 volts in it, and so now it has no problem turning it whatsoever. But again, I don't know if it's just a manufacturing flaw or if the lens got a knock or what, but yeah, there are a few stiff spots in the throw of the focus. Okay, I think that was it. I think that was everything that I forgot. So I'll let him get back to his likes and dislikes. In terms of my likes and dislikes, I really like the flaring on this. It's the first thing that a lot of people are asking about, and it's really the first thing that I looked for when I was shooting, and I was pleasantly surprised. Unlike the Sure anamorphic lenses, the flaring in this is actually enjoyable. It's not over the top with blue streaking everywhere. They make a blue version and an amber version. It is centrally sharp as nails, wide open, which is nice if you want to take full advantage of that anamorphic bokeh. And typical of anamorphic lenses, it's not so sharp on the edges, which is what helps you give that imperfect anamorphic look, right? One thing that is neither a like or dislike for me, but apparently it's a factor for other people, the squeeze ratio apparently changes from 1.8 to 1.6 something, 6 point something, if you focus within 4 meters, I think, of the lens. But honestly, I think that's a non-issue. Did you watch that intro sequence and think, that's not the correct de-squeeze factor? No. And sadly, you're gonna get the same thing on any budget anamorphic, because it's down to how the lens focuses its spherical and anamorphic elements. You don't like it? Buy some Hawk lenses. Right, if you're interested in checking out the launch campaign, there's a link in the description. Greatjoy are already working on making a set of these, so stay tuned for more, hopefully with feet markings on them. The future of affordable anamorphics is here. Cheers.